I'm pretty sure that everyone has a childhood of some sort. Either you're the school nerd who spent most of their time studying instead of socialising, or you were the class clown who spent most of their time socialising instead of studying. I, however, was neither of these. Instead, I was the class autistic. I wasn't smart enough to be noticed or funny enough to gain attention. I would just keep my head down and fixate on science fiction such as comics, Ben 10, or the theme of today's video, the Transformers. Now, when I wasn't being compared to the weird kid from Diary of a Wimpy Kid, I spent a set amount of time playing the Xbox. But when I was younger, I played on the good old-fashioned Nintendo DS. Now, one of my earliest memories is me getting home from foundation stage, which is what we British scum call preschool, and sitting down with my dad and him showing me what is probably my first DS game. Transformers Revenge of the Fallen on the DS, specifically the Decepticon version. Now, I was never fond of the DS version of Revenge of the Fallen, and as I said in my last video, I wasn't fond of the console version of the game either. A comment which a few of you didn't seem to appreciate. Now, aside from the fact that you're actually wrong about Revenge of the Fallen's tie-in game being any good, today's video isn't actually about Revenge of the Fallen's tie-in game, but instead the game's predecessor, the 2007 tie-in game, Transformers, Decepticons, and Autobots. Now, I do own these games physically, but my DS doesn't have capture card capabilities, so for the purpose of today's video, I'm going to have to emulate both games, which, by the way, might add, made them borderline unplayable, from the janky controls, or the fact that it's borderline impossible to map the DS controls to a controller, or the fact that half your screen needs a mouse to interact with, and the boss fights being harder than me when I see Johnny Sins.
Jay, I was blessed with this horsecock for a reason.
Each of the tie-in games had a story that differed slightly from the movies. Instead of having any human characters, for example, you have two Cybertronians you can play as, an Autobot and a Decepticon, who you can give a custom name to. So instead of having Shia LaBeouf suffering from voice cracks every 0.9 nanoseconds, you have the same guy doing a slightly different voice in each version of the game. At least I think it is. IMDb isn't clear on who voices the Autobot protagonist. Each of the two game stories are similar and stay faithful to the film, at least if you're playing the Autobot version of the game, because the Decepticon campaign goes from 0 to 100 real fucking fast. Let me explain. Each game starts off with a monologue by either Optimus Prime or Starscream, depending on your version of the game. Optimus is voiced by the amazing Peter Cullen, who has voiced Optimus in all the live-action films and the Generation 1 cartoon, and Starscream is voiced by Daniel Rousseau, who voiced Donald Duck in Mickey Mouse's Clubhouse because of course he fucking did. The game's opening cutscene is the same with a few key differences, one being that in the Decepticon version we don't see the Protoformer's face because the Protoform is Bumblebee, and two, the opening cutscene is ripped from the console version, it's just been heavily compressed. Each of the games starts off with two Protoformers crashing down in what seems to be Las Vegas, which is one of the game's 4 playable locations. Each game has the same 3 regions, while having one unique one. The Autobots have the Arctic, and the Decepticons have Qatar. The two Protoforms land at the same time in opposite ends of the plaza. We will call the Protoforms John and Steve, and yes, I did forget to create a new save with a different name I used for the earlier bit. So throughout the game, the Autobots and Decepticons characters will have silly names, so it's either John or Steve or I'm gay. John talks to Ironhide, who doesn't tell John why he's on Earth, and Steve talks to Barricade and Starscream. Starscream tells Steve that they received a weak distress signal from Earth and that Steve is to assist his fellow Decepticons, Barricade, Blackout, and Brawl in the search. Ironhide and Barricade each have different views on having to deal with the Rookie. Ironhide says he's looking forward to seeing what the Rookie will do.
Anyway,
Locals call it Earth, kid.
talk about low tech. What am I doing here?
Patience, kid, we'll get to that later.
Hey, just because you're an old war veteran doesn't mean you can talk down to me.
No need to take offense. I know you'll do us proud.
Well, Barricade, who's voiced by the same voice actor as the Arbiter, hits Smiley Detective Keith David, says he thinks the Rookie will only drag him down and doesn't need him.
Why have I been sent here?
We received a faint Decepticon signal which originated from Earth. I need you to investigate the matter. Barricade is there now. You will assist him.
I won't let you down, Lord Starscream. Barricade, come in. Lord Starscream has sent me to assist you in the investigation.
I didn't ask for any help. You're just gonna slow me down, rookie.
Well, if you're ever Decepticon enough to overthrow Starscream, then you can call the shots.
This is the game's tutorial, which consists of moving, jumping around, and grabbing objects and committing minor vandalism. The next part of the game's tutorial has minor differences from each other, depending on your version. Here, John and Steve are jumped by the opposite of their respective faction, and in response to being remotely challenged, John and Steve game ended of the opposition and then quickly down a nearby helicopter which is performing some recon for some unknown reason. Once the opposition has been reasonably dealt with, Steve and John scan their first respective vehicles. This is the game's driving tutorial. We have now entered the game's driving tutorial, and it's pretty basic and both characters end up in the same place. Only one key difference is that the Decepticon campaign takes place shortly before the Autobot campaign. As we can see, some small differences in the missions to come, although the games take place in separate universes, and you'll see what I mean later. The next playable mission is similar in both games. In the Decepticon campaign, you're ordered to destroy some public property to lure out the Autobots, while in the Autobot campaign, you're ordered to stop some Decepticons from destroying public property. The two Transformers must then race to the map marker, and the Decepticon must perform some destruction and then fight some Autobot drones, while the Autobot must simply just destroy some drones. Doesn't seem fair, but okay. Once the respective drones have been successfully sent to the Shadow Realm, each game has a plot twist. A new drone appears, but wait, there's more to this drone than meets the eye. You see, in each of the respective games, the drone you encounter is the opposite drone. So if you're playing the Autobot copy, you fight the Decepticon protagonist, and if you're playing as the Decepticon protagonist, you fight the Autobot protagonist. We know this from both of the characters' art and the fact that their name is unknown, because it's our responsibility to name them. The characters' back and forth is actually really good and holds a lot of depth, something that this game doesn't deserve to have.
You Decepticons don't know when to quit. Time to teach you that the bad guys always lose. You Autobots are no better than we Decepticons. We might be on opposite sides, but we're both playing the same game.
The Autobots blindly follow the concept of good versus evil, whilst the Decepticons counter saying both sides are as bad as each other. This is the game's first boss fight, and it's pretty simple, as all you need to do is slap the Transformer around, and it's not as hard as Barricade's first boss fight, or Brawl's fight, or God forbid Ratchet's boss fight. Once the fight is over, each of the respective protagonists is ordered to move to Tranquility, which is a location from the console version of the games. This is where each protagonist begins to learn more about their mission. John speaks with Optimus, who tells him he will understand their mission in due time and must protect the humans from attacking the Decepticons, while Steve meets with Barricade and is told he needs to prove his worth by destroying some private property. This is the last part of the game's main tutorial. This section teaches you about the game's wanted level. The more things you destroy, or the more drones you kill, the higher your threat level will rise. This is indicated by 1 to 4 logos rising in the corner as if it was GTA 5. Each game has a different icon depending on which copy you play. The Autobots have the Decepticon icon and the Decepticons have the Autobot icon. In the Decepticon version of this mission, we learn that Megatron abandoned the Decepticons at the Battle of Tycho Pax, which we see is true in the tie-in comic Transformers Defiance, and we later learn in the game that Starscream has ruled over the Decepticons for millions of years and has made it out that Megatron was a coward, a delusion that the Rookie has fallen subject to. You see, the Rookie is Starscream's personal protege, and Barricade was one of Megatron's most loyal and isn't too happy about Starscream butting in on the mission. The first mission has us stopping the Decepticons attacking the humans, and the Autobots must stop it. The mission is effectively teaching you about the human element of the games. This mission introduces you to the police, and they are the most friendly Metro cops you'll ever meet, because as soon as they see you, they start shooting every bullet that their guns can hold, as if it was GTA Online. Now, after the mission, the stories take a short diversion, as the next few missions revolve around each side trying to figure out where the distress signal came from. The Autobots send John to scan some new vehicle forms to allow John to move more stealthily without being seen, as John can scan multiple vehicles, it turns out.
Hey, what's with the text messaging? Something wrong with your voice transmitter? Tiger Packs? That's when Megatron vanished into space. Right. Wheeljack gave me some upgrades that allow me to store multiple forms.
You can choose from dozens of vehicles, and if you act now...
What did you do?
It turns out Wheeljack altered John's T-Cog, allowing him to store multiple vehicle forms, so Bumblebee deploys him to find more vehicles to scan, but it turns out the last vehicle is a Decepticon in disguise. While in the Decepticon campaign, it turns out Barricade knows of an Autobot in hiding, who they can find to learn more information about the distress call. Scanning the vehicles marked on the map, Steve eventually finds that the Autobot, and once offline, his processor reveals that Bumblebee has been deployed to Tranquility to find the necessary information. Once the Decepticons have gotten the necessary information, Barricade begins to hunt down Bumblebee, but while he does, he needs the Rookie to destroy as much police equipment as he can, because Barricade can't search for Bumblebee while the police are getting in his way. So he dispatches the Rookie to effectively destroy the police, something that Twitter would be proud of. While this is going on, Bumblebee dispatches the Rookie to scan some broadcast towers, but while doing so he finds that an unknown party is blocking his access, and that leaves B and John baffled as to how a human can cut off their access. Scanning a few more towers, each time being cut off, leading to the police getting involved due to the constant intrusion of government files, it draws the local police's attention. But taking the advice that any Genshin Impact player will tell you, laws are like guidelines, and she said she was 12. Eventually, John is able to gather enough information to finish the mission. Both sides learn that a local house has the information needed to find Megatron's location, and it turns out that John has never actually seen Cybertron, and B says he will see it soon. I wonder what that could mean. He's also told that the Allspark is on Earth due to the fact that Megatron was chasing it, and that the key needed to find its location is in a human residence. This is effectively Sam's house, but since there are no human characters in the game, we move on. In the next mission, you can play as a real Transformer, either Bumblebee or Barricade. Moving to the house, each respective character finds the other. B finds Barricade, and Barricade finds B, and when B finds Barricade, he commits some minor vandalism. Now you might have noticed, when you're playing as the Rookie, the user interface is different, and fun fact, Barricade's transformation button is the same shape as a police badge. Each of the characters is different, and I thought the reason why each character has their symbol closed off, while the Rookie's was open, could show how he can change forms but they can't, and then I played the Decepticon campaign, which just blew my theory out the fucking water. So, the next section of this level is a chase section. B must chase Barricade to a bridge whilst avoiding the police that he has called to help slow down B, which is a nice nod because he is a police car and the only thing we get close to this is Brawler using tanks to attack Optimus later in the game. Barricade does not use this ability whilst playing as him though. Instead you have to chase Bumblebee and fight him, and when he tries to flee, continue to chase him down and eventually beat him. And if either B or Barricade strays too far from the chase, the mission will end and you have to start again. And keep in mind, there aren't any checkpoints, and perhaps it's because I was playing a controller, but the driving in this game is as stiff as a 16 malt liquor. Each fight has a few small differences. Barricade uses the local police to distract B, with the two ending up on a bridge, and this fight is so unfair with Barricade shooting explosives which can send you flying off the bridge, whilst the fight with Bumblebee as Barricade is extremely easy and Bumblebee leads Barricade away from the humans so they don't get hurt. But here's a tip for the boss fights in this game, just jump and shoot, it'll save you so much time. Once the fight is over, both sides recover a file and realise that the government organisation called Sector 7 has got the distress signal from Megatron and a file called Project Iceman. Bumblebee sends John to meet up with Ironhide in the Arctic to recover more information and possibly find Megatron. Barricade talks about John going to the Arctic but thinks that the Qatar military base could hold more secrets, as he feels that Megatron may have been moved to a different location. Either way, John and Steve leave to go to opposite ends of the temperature gauge. But before Steve leaves, Starscream tells him that he thinks the Allspark is located on Earth, and that's why he sent so many troops to Earth. John arrives in the Arctic and is told by Ironhide to protect the nearby Sector 7 convoy, and in order to have the advantage over nearby Decepticons, John is told to scan a helicopter alt mode, as if he's detected, the mission will end. John must follow the convoy while remaining in his vehicle mode. John must then follow the convoy while remaining in vehicle mode, and follows the convoy and deals with any Decepticons along the way. Eventually arriving at the location, Ironhide moves inside the nearby facility that the convoy was heading to. Heading inside, Ironhide finds where Megatron should have been, but realises that Megatron has been moved by Sector 7, something Barricade was worried about. Moving further into the icebox, Ironhide steals a computer to scan and download its information. One small issue, however. This is the Arctic. There aren't many ways of transporting information out here, and Santa's workshop is shut this time of year, so the Autobots are going to need to get creative. Sector 7, however, has a solution. There is a nearby transmitter that they're going to use. So protecting Ironhide as he moves the information over to the transmitter, we encounter a handful of Decepticons, and once we reach the transmitter, we need to fend off a Decepticon attack, which consists of us shooting waves of Decepticons while a meter in the corner slowly grows to 100. Once the data has been transmitted, everyone's flying snack shows up. Starscream tells the Autobots to give up and that they won't win because we're not even halfway through the game yet. And Ironhide and John decide otherwise and take to fighting Starscream, whose boss battle consists of him flying around and occasionally transforming so he can be beaten to death. Or you can just spend the entire time shooting him. Either works. Once Starcom has been dealt with, Optimus radios in and tells us to get our ass back to Tranquility, as him, Ratchet and Jazz are going to finally join us in the game and investigate what's happening on Earth. But for a moment, let's turn this tale towards the Decepticons. In Qatar, Steve meets up with Brawl and Blackout, two Decepticons who are featured in the main film, only in the film Brawl is called Devastator. In the desert, Steve is placed in charge of the operation. The target is the military base's servers. And long story short, it's basically the opening to the film. In the mission, we have 3 steps. 1. Steve will destroy the base's security, so that means blowing up jets, tanks and helicopters, and once that's done, Brawl will stop anyone from escaping and calling for help, and finally Blackout will move in and retrieve the data needed. So the plan is put into motion. Steve drives over to the base and scans a nearby helicopter, and once he takes flight, he begins to destroy nearby jets, and once he's had the military's attention, begins to destroy both jets and tanks. And to stop the troops escaping and calling for help, Brawl moves in to crush any effort the humans are making, and with the base in total shambles, Blackout moves in to secure the documents. One small issue, however. The humans' last line of defense. As Blackout enters, the nearby sensors trigger the last security response, which begins to shut down the servers. Now it's a race against time, so Blackout needs to find different access points before they'll all get shut off. Now it's easier said than done, and hard, as even though Steve and Brawl blew up half the base, the human tanks left numbering hundreds, and one shot from these tanks sends Blackout back to the Stone Ages. I swear to God I had less of a challenge playing Elden Ring. But eventually, Blackout gets the file, but it's encrypted, and only Barricade can decipher it. But before Steve, Brawl and Blackout can return to Tranquility, Ratchet arrives to put a stop to them. Ah, yes, an ambulance versus 2 helicopters and a fucking tank. I wonder who will win. It was me. I won. Not by much though, because the crackheads at Activision decided, hey, wouldn't it be hella funny if we decided to make it so the medical vehicle could shred your health in the span of time it takes a sim to turn on their queen when they reveal they had a boyfriend? Ratchet lives up to his name because his AI is Ratchet, because if he loses sight of you for 0.8 seconds, he forgets he's in a fight and stands there wondering why he's doing in the game. This gives you, the player, the chance to rest and regenerate your health, which after doing a few times allows you to beat his ass back to the 2nd century. Returning to Tranquility, both sides are informed they won't be able to enter the city as Sector 7 has set up defences all over the city, so Bumblebee and the returning Steve are both deployed to destroy the defences. Now I'm sure you've noticed one of these Cybertronians is a helicopter and the other is an old Mustang. Now, I'm sure you're thinking, is this fair? No. No, it's not. You see, half these turrets are located on top of buildings, and how would a car get on top of those buildings? Well, by climbing, of course. How do you climb? Well, you've got to hit X. Is that told to you? No. You have to go into the control menus to find out how to climb buildings, and all Steve needs to do is fly and shoot. However, once their defences are destroyed, both sides' reinforcements arrive, but then he comes, our beloved Space Jesus, Optimus Prime. Next, we see all the Autobots gathering together. We see that Jazz, Ratchet and Optimus have all arrived on Earth. Optimus deploys Jazz to find some Sector 7 vehicles that contain information on the whereabouts of Megatron and the Allspark, but Optimus also does drop this nugget.
You find anything?
Yes. It is as I feared. Not only does Sector 7 have Megatron prisoner, but they have the Allspark as well. They have no idea how deadly that combination could be. Earth could share the same fate as Cybertron. I won't let that happen. Not again.
What happened to Cybertron wasn't your fault, Optimus. It's Megatron's.
No matter what Megatron did, I'm still partly responsible, Jazz. I could have prevented this before any of it started.
By destroying your own brother?
Megatron may be my brother, but he is also the one who took the spark of our father, my friends, our world. I will do what I must. Gather the others. We need to brief them on what we have learned.
Aye, sir.
Turns out Optimus is Megatron's brother, and Megatron killed their father, and that's why Optimus stands against Megatron. So, yeah, that's a thing. With the defenses down, Brawl and Blackout meet Steve and Barricade near a construction site to use the generators to allow the file to be decrypted. And with the help of some turrets, the file is almost decoded, but due to Autobot reinforcements, Steve sets off to distract them, with Brawl and Blackout defending Barricade. With Jazz bringing all 3 vehicles to Optimus, he deploys Bumblebee to deal with Sector 7 reinforcements. Once Steve has destroyed the Autobot drones, he's told Sector 7 is moving in, but Steve has an idea. With John accidentally leading Sector 7 to Bumblebee, Steve shoots Beat down and leaves him for Sector 7 to take back to Hoover Dam. Steve asks Barricade why the humans would attack someone who is protecting them, and Barricade gives a strong and patriotic speech about the Decepticons, and then he tells Steve that they need to get Megatron back because he'd shoot you in the face, while Starscream would shoot you in the back.
Sector 7 captured Bumblebee. The Autobots have been trying to help the humans. Why would the humans want to imprison a potential ally?
Because they're weak. Weakness breeds fear, and fear makes every ally an enemy. That's why we Decepticons don't tolerate weakness. If you'd been trained properly by someone like Megatron instead of that weasel Starscream, you might understand that.
Were you able to decipher the file?
Yeah. The Iceman is located at the Sector 7 headquarters in a place called Hoover Dam. It's 2 megamiles east of here.
Starscream will want to know about this information.
Starscream can blow it out his exhaust. Once we revive Megatron, we won't need to worry about Starscream anymore.
What makes you think Megatron is so much better a ruler than Starscream?
Because you know where you stand with Megatron. Starscream is the type that would kill you in your sleep. Megatron would have the ball bearings to do it to your face. Now let's move out.
Arriving at the Hoover Dam, Jazz is deployed to transmit a virus that will disable the base's communication systems. Once back safely, he tells Optimus that he's learned a way into the base, and they will rescue Bumblebee because they need his tracking skills to locate the Allspark. At the same time, Brawl is deployed to destroy the human satellites, as that would result in the humans' communications being cut off. As the trio leaves, Steve contacts his master Starscream, who tells him that he must not know of the mission to collect the Allspark, and that when he sees Megatron, he must kill him in his sleep, otherwise there will be a power struggle, and the fact that they are so close to getting the Allspark could jeopardize the mission.
Starscream, come in.
Report.
We're at the Sector 7 headquarters located at Hoover Dam. We're currently trying to find a way into the base.
Do any of the others suspect that our true goal is the Allspark?
Not yet, but it will come out soon. Assuming you are correct.
Listen to me very carefully. If Megatron is revived, he will surely challenge me to regain his power. With the Allspark so close within our grasp, we cannot afford a power struggle. You must ensure that Megatron can never be revived.
You want me to kill the founder of the Decepticon army? In his sleep?
I want you to ensure the future of the Decepticons. Do not fail me.
Once the Autobots destroy the remaining satellites, which leaves Sector 7 helpless, they take to destroying the base's turret, which leaves the base open to an attack. So taking the only available way into the base, John moves in. And while this is going on, the Decepticons take to planting explosives along the Hoover Dam to help distract the Autobots. Ball is deployed to capture a tank so they can interrogate the driver, as to where the location of Megatron is. And from the fact that the tank stumbles away and then Ball ruthlessly kills it, I think they got the information. The Decepticons now have Megatron's location, so as one last precaution, Barricade sets out to destroy any nearby reinforcements. But as he leaves, Steve tells Barricade that Starscream ordered him to kill Megatron. And it turns out, Barricade knew that Starscream would tell Steve to kill Megatron, and that Starscream is highly predictable, but it does shake Barricade when it's revealed to him that the Allspark is here on Earth, which does actually surprise Barricade, and Barricade states that Starscream just wants to keep the power of the cube to himself.
Hey, Rookie. We've got information about a military base near the dam. I'm headed there now to see what info I can find out.
Barricade, before you go, there's something I need to tell you.
You mean that Starscream wants you to kill Megatron before I can revive him?
What? How did you know?
Starscream would never go to all this trouble for a missing Decepticon. Megatron is the only one who could remove him from power.
Well, there is more. Starscream says the Allspark is here on Earth.
What? You better start talking, and fast!
Starscream said that the only reason that Megatron would be here is because he was chasing the Allspark.
Lugnuts! I knew Starscream's been lying to us all this time. But I had no idea about the Allspark.
Sounds to me like Starscream wanted to keep it for himself.
Actually, he said he wanted to secure the Allspark before anyone else, to prevent everyone from fighting over it.
Yeah, right. So he can ensure that no one can challenge him. Not even Megatron.
What now?
First, I'm gonna take out that military bunker to keep us from getting flanked. Hopefully, I'll find some info that will get us inside the main base. We've got to revive Megatron. It's the only way we're gonna stop that traitor. You made the right choice, Decepticon.
So Barricade sets out to destroy the enemy encampment, and once that's done, Barricade comes to learn that Sector 7 has made good with the Autobots, and they have teamed up. So the new combined force of Sector 7 and the Autobots has been dealt with. It's at this moment Blackout takes flight. With the base dealing with Barricade's attack, Bumblebee is able to break free. As Blackout takes flight, he destroys a few turrets and then proceeds to pick up Barricade. He will then go over to the nearby radio tower, destroy it, and then drop Barricade into the base. With the base dealing with Barricade's attack, Bumblebee is able to break through and move through the base to look for his weapon ship. It also turns out that Sector 7 has captured a few Decepticons, and after a short scuffle, which is so epic, B was able to phase shift through the wall. He's able to find his weapon chip and begins to search for the Allspark, and while all of this is going on, Barricade was able to locate Megatron and begins thawing him. So Steve is sent to defend Megatron from a joint attack from both Sector 7 and the Autobots. While Megatron is thawing, B is able to locate the Allspark and begins to shut down its force field. But because the Allspark has no sense of right and wrong, B is attacked by the Allspark constructs, which attack him, but he does fend them off and is able to grab the Allspark and drive out of there before the base shuts down. It's at the same time when B gets the Allspark back to Optimus and Megatron breaks out. However, Megatron is highly damaged, and he's also missing his weapon chip.
Lord Megatron, you're free.
Yes. I am free. Who are you? How long have I been frozen?
It's at this moment Megatron is informed about Starscream's slander of him, and by telling all the Decepticons he was a coward who abandoned them, and Megatron isn't too happy.
Nearly 1,000,000 years. Starscream misled us into believing that you had abandoned us.
What? He dared to discredit me?
So he orders Blackout to get his weapon chip back, whilst Barricade goes to deal with the Allspark's escape.
And what of the other Decepticons?
We never gave up on you, Lord Megatron. We searched the galaxy in secret, trying to find you. As far as we're concerned, you remain our true leader.
My weapon chip. It has been removed.
Blackout is retrieving it as we speak. Please rest for a moment, my lord. Give your repair systems time to heal you.
Barricade and Blackout are both deployed. Barricade to get the Allspark from Bumblebee and Optimus, and Blackout to go get Megatron's weapon chip, which he successfully does. Megatron and Steve stay behind, so Megatron can have a guard whilst his self-repair systems attempt to fix him. Bringing Decepticon reinforcements, Barricade takes on Optimus and Bumblebee for the Allspark, but in the confusion, Bumblebee manages to slip away, with Optimus having to retreat. We cut back to Megatron and Steve, and we see that John and Ironhide are eavesdropping on the conversation between Megs and Steve, and they learn about the explosives that Brawl had laid down earlier. Ironhide moves on to do something about it. Now before this video continues, you need to understand one thing. This is where the games take two different turns, and this is where the multiverse begins, where the variants would come from. So we will talk about the Decepticons part of the story next, and then come back to the Autobots. So our story continues. And while Megatron has it reinstalled, Barricade tells Megatron that they can detonate the explosives to distract the Autobots so they can hunt down Bumblebee during the confusion. Megatron hangs back while the others set off, and then he does proceed to take flight, only to be shot down. But by who? Jazz? Turns out Jazz disarmed the explosives, and he's using turrets to stop Megatron from being able to take flight. And because of his heroism, he has to die. Especially since his fight is so fucking annoying. First you gotta destroy the turret so you can take flight, and then you gotta destroy the Autobot drones that are trying to stop you from destroying them, and then you gotta fight Jazz, who jumps around like a frog with ADHD. So after a while of failing to take flight and being shot down from another continent, Megatron finally kills Jazz and is able to feast upon his spark. Back in Tranquility, this is where shit gets wild, as we see Ironhide starts to fight with Brawl, and his only attack is leapfrogging around and then being beaten to death by Brawl. And by the way, the conversation they have before this makes them seem like a pair of star-crossed lovers that take their lives, whose misunderstanding piteous overthrows doth with their death bury their parents' strife. Yeah, bitches, I know Shakespeare.
Dance, Ironhide. Brawl.
Anyways, Starscream appears to chase Bumblebee, and this chase is so annoying, if you lose sight of Bumblebee for 0.9 seconds, it's a mission failure. And the chase isn't short, and the first part of the chase is him drive through the docks, which has more twists and turns than a silly straw. And the fact that Starscream is an F-22 fighter jet, and he cannot catch up with a Camaro, baffled me. Because on the highway, if you don't keep up with B, he takes off like it's the ending of Grease. Chasing B into a multi-story car park, Starscream fights B, one-on-one, and just wipes the floor with him. And he actually does manage to take the Allspark for himself. It is at this moment, however, that Blackout appears and tells Starscream to stick him up, and says that Megatron will have the Allspark. Starscream's response is pretty understandable, as whenever someone is threatened, their only response is to blow the enemy sky high.
Drop it, Starscream. The Allspark goes to Lord Megatron, true leader of the
It's at this moment Barricade appears, and this is a boss fight with him, and somehow harder than his bridge fight with Bumblebee, because as a police car, for whatever reason, he takes away half your health with his hitbox the size of Africa. That means if he vaguely looks at you whilst driving, there goes half your health bar, baby. But don't worry, gamers, if you die, you encounter something great, the game's only checkpoint. So you don't have to chase Bumblebee all over again, instead you just have to fight him again, which is easy. But you might have noticed something. In each of the boss fights, there's been an exclusion zone where you are not allowed to leave the boss fight. This boss fight doesn't have that, so feel free to transform, leave like a little bitch, heal, and return, rinse and repeat, and he's dead. Just don't get hit by his car, because if he misses, may God have mercy on your soul, because you best believe he's coming back around and hit you in the back. Once you are fully beaten Barricade, Starscream takes flight, and Steve comes out to Barricade in his final moments, and Barricade tells him that this is what it means to be a true Decepticon. Steve then vows to get revenge for Barricade's death.
Now, you see what it is to be a Decepticon.
Following Starscream, Steve confronts him, and Starscream comes to the conclusion that Steve betrayed him because of the fact that Megatron still functions.
So Megatron has been revived. This means you have either failed me or betrayed me. Neither option bodes well for you.
Barricade was right. You are a coward. Megatron conquers to obtain power. You just steal it.
You are such a disappointment, my protege.
Starscream then accepts Steve as a failed protege, and then takes out to destroying him. With the power of the cube, Starscream is able to use its energy to transform Earth's technology into drones, and after fending off the attack from Starscream, he flees. And Steve pursues, and Steve tracks Starscream down, and Steve must defend himself from more drones, and once those have been dealt with, Steve is attacked by some Autobot drones, who he quickly deals with. Once the drones are offline, Steve comes to realise that Starscream has escaped, and he radios into Lord Megatron, who tells him he cares not for his failures. Before Megatron can pursue Starscream himself, he encounters his brother, Optimus Prime.
My way, Optimus. You'll never retrieve the Allspark before I do. I'm not here for the Allspark. I am here for you, Megatron.
Facing off against Optimus, Megatron comes to the conclusion that their war must begin anew on Earth. The fight between the two is long and tedious, but ultimately Optimus falls on Megatron's might. And after chastising Optimus, Megatron tells Steve to find Starscream. Steve locates Starscream in Las Vegas, right where it all started. Steve and Starscream battle it out, with Steve being able to knock the Allspark out of his hands and use the Allspark to end the fight. But a blast from the cube knocks Steve down, leaving him badly damaged. It is then at this moment Megatron swoops down to finish the fight. Megatron chases Starscream down and occasionally transforms to kick the shit out of him, and with the power of a broken AI, Megatron is able to beat Starscream. In his dying moments, Starscream warns Megatron that others will rise up to challenge Megatron's power, and Megatron simply replies that they will suffer the same fate as Starscream. Returning to Steve, he tells Megatron that the others have died and that they could be brought back, but Megatron claps back by saying they failed with their death, and that dying is not what Decepticons do, which is the exact opposite of what Barricade said, meaning to be a Decepticon. Said means to be a Decepticon. And then Megatron kills Steve, despite them being able to repair him, because Megatron thinks the resources would just be wasted on him then.
You are guilty of the one unforgivable crime! Failure!
I won't be the last, Megatron. Someone will always be there to challenge your leadership.
Maybe, but they will suffer the same fate as you. Victory is mine! All shall fear the might of Megatron!
We did it, Lord Megatron. But Barricade and the others.
If they were truly Decepticons, they would have survived. Weakness is a rust that must be stripped away. Just like you.
What? But I helped save you.
Yes, but you are heavily damaged.
But could be repaired.
A waste of resources. The weak only serve to benefit the strong.
And then the game just ends. So everyone's dead, except for Megatron and Brawl, apparently. We never see what happens to Brawl. He just escapes, goes off into the wild, and lives. And Megatron rules the universe with the Allspark. So this is the game's bad ending. This is what happens when you set all your Fallout points into strength and not intelligence. So, let's not end this video on a dark note, and take a look at the Autobot ending of the games. We reunite with the Autobots as Ironhide disarms the explosives on the Hoover Dam, which puts an end to the Decepticon scheme. And as the Autobots follow after Bumblebee, Optimus runs into Brawl, who challenges him to a fight. And this fight is pretty annoying, simply because halfway through the fight, Brawl transforms into a tank and becomes invulnerable to all forms of harm. Well, unless you're smashing him over the head with tanks, which isn't easy, as both Brawl and the other tanks bullets and Optimus flying into the literal sun. But once Brawl is defeated, that allows Optimus to drive to Tranquility. And back in Tranquility, Bumblebee arrives while being chased by Blackout. And I tell you what, this mission was so hard I had to actually change the controller inputs so I could drive easier. But on a nice note, it is nice how Blackout taunts B as it drives through the narrow streets.
I can smell your fear, Autobot.
B has to rendezvous with Ratchet, and he has to reach the checkpoint within a time limit. And once he does, Ratchet takes Blackout on one-on-one on top of a rooftop. And after a while, Blackout falls, so that's 2 out of 4 Decepticons down. Across the city, John meets up with Ironhide to help him fend off the Decepticon attack, and with a time of 2 minutes, I found this mission had to be the hardest, as if you take your eyes off Ironhide for, well, 2 seconds, his health bar will drop by 90%. Once Ironhide is safe, John moves over to Jazz, who is moving through the city dealing with the Allspark drones that have been created by the Allspark's proximity to human technology. So moving through the streets, both Jazz and John are able to successfully deal with the drones, and John is then tasked with protecting Bumblebee as he makes his way to Optimus, who isn't that far away. So with very little effort, John is able to keep B safe, and they all meet up with Optimus. But as the free chat, Megatron blows them all sky high and is able to grab the Allspark. As Megatron gets away, he's pursued by both Optimus and John. Once confronted, Megatron tells Prime that he still makes allies of the weak, but Optimus counters, saying where he sees weakness, he sees strength. Megatron says to Optimus that if he wants him dead, he's going to have to shoot him, and Optimus does actually shoot Megatron, only to realise that the Allspark has made him unbeatable. Megatron has made Allspark drones that begin to attack Optimus, so now it's up to John to get the Allspark away from Megatron. And he is able to knock it out of his hands, but sustained fatal injuries during the fight. With the Allspark being taken from Megatron's grasp, he and Optimus engage in their final fight, with Optimus coming out on top. With Megatron's spark extinguished, John asks Optimus to make the Earth their new home, and to protect the humans, with Optimus agreeing, and then he begins to give his typical ending speech that appears in all the Transformers films, and the game just ends. So, the protagonists die in both games. There's no good ending here. Once you beat the game, you can play as any of the characters in free roam, and you do unlock secret vehicles, but to unlock all the vehicles you need to play online, and well, there are side quests you can do, but they're pretty meh. Now, these games were really fun, and as you go through them, you do level up to unlock new things like climbing and shooting rockets instead of bullets. You can even unlock nitro boost for your cars. And that's it for these games, as I can't really play online mode, and because I got the idea for this video from a comment, you guys should comment other suggestions on other videos I can do. And the other DS games are good, like Revenge of the Fallen's tie-in game is okay. And I honestly didn't play Dark of the Moon's tie-in games, so this might be the only DS review for a while. And I'm going to give this game a 7 out of 10, just because it's my childhood, you know. So, my gamers, till next time.